Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod Science Classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to see current affairs of 19th November 2021. In this lecture, we are going to discuss 8 topics which are very much relevant to our UPSC. So let's get started with our discussion and let us try to see which are the topics now we are going to discuss in this lecture. So first topic is about bankers must support job creators, says our Prime Minister. So our Prime Minister mainly says that for small and medium enterprises, where they will get money or finance or capital for their business. So in this context, here banks, they need to play an important role and they need to provide some loans for the small and medium enterprises. So whenever they are getting loans, that will help for business expansion. So whenever there is business expansion, that will leads to economic revival. Okay. So ultimate goal or ultimate aim of our government is for economic revival. Already you know that due to this COVID-19 pandemic, so most of the business they had been stalled. So if you're talking about any industry sector or any service sector, everything had been stalled. So because of this, here one important aim that our government which is mainly focusing on here is economic recovery or economic revival. As we all know that in 2020 quarter 1, there was 24.5% of contraction. In quarter 2, about 7.5% of contraction. And there are many estimates, many GDP estimates are saying that yes, we are going to have some economic revival. So for the boosting of this economic revival, especially we need to focus on this. What are the steps that can be taken from government side and as well as from RBI side that will be helpful for our economic recovery. Okay, so this is first topic and this will be important from our economy point of view, which mainly comes under our GS paper 3. And next topic is about WTO, that is World Trade Organization must rein in nations violating trade rules. Actually, why this WTO is in news? Because we are going to have this 12th ministerial meeting of this WTO. So because of this, what are the important agenda that we are going to discuss and why it is important? There are many articles which are coming in newspaper regarding this WTO ministerial meet. So once this is done, okay, that is going to be held in next month in December. Okay, so once it is done means we will be getting many articles. There we are going to discuss everything in great detail. So as of now, we are going to see what our minister says regarding this. So this will be again important from our economy. So regarding WTO and regarding this ministerial meets, that will be very important from your mains point of view. And next topic is about sexual intent. So not skin to skin contact, says Supreme Court. Okay, actually what happened Bombay High Court gave one judgment like, so if there is no skin to skin contact, especially in this sexual intent, so it will not come under this POCSO 7, section 7 of this POCSO Act. So now Supreme Court came up with a historical judgment regarding this POCSO, regarding this skin to skin contact. So this will be very important from our polity point of view, which mainly comes under GS paper 2. And next topic is about India needs $10 trillion to meet net zero. So this article mainly talking about carbon neutrality. Already we know that in this COP26 summit, our Prime Minister announced that we are going to achieve or achieving of this carbon neutrality or net zero emissions by 2070. Mainly to achieve this target, what are the steps that can be taken? So first and the foremost thing here is we need to move towards renewable energy. Okay, so from non-renewable energy we need to move towards renewable energy. And apart from that, we need to decrease usage of fossil fuels and we can move towards green hydrogen and we can go for petrol blending with ethanol. So because of this, that will decrease use of this crude oil which will be decreased. And next one is we can also save our forest reserves, and as well as we need to go for technologies that mainly absorb carbon. Okay, so these are some important steps that can be taken especially to meet our net zero target of 2070. So this will be important from our environment and ecology, which mainly comes under our GS paper 3. And next topic, it is about mobile connectivity project to benefit tribes. So this is very important topic, especially for students whose option is anthropology. So in anthropology paper 2, you will be having tribal related issues. So there, especially for this tribal people, we need to take some steps, right? So for example, for empowerment of tribal people, and we can also relate this topic with our left-wing extremism. But how? So in these left-wing extremism areas, there is low level of development that mainly seen. So to increase mobile connectivity and to make them aware about how technology which is mainly developing throughout the country and as well as in the world, so we need proper mobile connectivity. So because of lack of development, it is also one important root cause for this left-wing extremism. So because of this, government going to come up with this mobile connectivity project to benefit tribals. So this topic is important from our society point of view, which mainly comes in the GS paper 2. And next topic, it is about hypersonic cruise missile. So Russia tests its hypersonic cruise missile. So here you need to know about what is this hypersonic cruise missile. So what is the difference between ballistic and as well as cruise missile, and you need to know difference between ramjet and as well as scramjet, because in this hypersonic cruise missile they have this air propelling system, that is scramjet, not ramjet. And this will be important from your static syllabus, from your science and technology, and it mainly comes under your GS paper 3. And next topic, it is about missing an inclusionary vision for urban poor. So this is about especially urban dwelling or urban slum dwellers. So recently Tamil Nadu government came up with one law regarding rehabilitation as well as resettling of this slum people. So this is very important from our governance point of view. And next topic is about agreeing to disagree. So this is about US-China recent summit and what are the issues of China and what are the issues of USA that we are going to discuss. So this will be important from international relations, which mainly comes under GS paper 2. So these are the some important topics. Now we are going to discuss them. So now let us try to see first topic. So title says bankers must support job creators. Okay. So who are the job creators? I can say entrepreneurs. Okay. Entrepreneurs, they were the job creators. Either they will be having like small industries or micro industries, medium industries, etc. So for all those people who are going to create a job, so for them bankers need to give support. So in support of loans, in support in the form of loans. So whenever banks are providing loans for these industries, and they will go for expansion. So whenever they are expanding or whenever they are going for new technology, everything, then what happened? It will also increase job creation. So in this way, so whenever there is job creation means people will get salary, that is laborers will get salary. So whenever they are getting salary, they will go to market and they will place orders for, okay, they will place orders for goods and services. So because of goods and service orders, that will lead to economic recovery, and further whenever there is increase in the demand for this goods and service in the market, and further these industries, they will go for increase in production. So increase in production means there will be increase in the job creation again, and this cycle will be continuous. So here banks plays an important role for job creation and economic recovery. So this is the gist. And now let us try to see what our Prime Minister is saying. So he is saying that today banks' strength has grown so much that they are ready to energize the country's economy and can play a big role in making India self-reliant. Okay, so this is the thing which mainly said by our Prime Minister ji. And now let us try to see context. If you see context, it mainly says that our Prime Minister asked bankers to be more proactive in lending to small businesses. So banks, they are mainly asked to lend more for small businesses, and this will mainly helps to improve the viability and as well as scale of their borrowers operations. So in this way, that will mainly helps our country for economic recovery or in the phase of growth. Okay, so our Prime Minister mainly asks bankers to be more proactive in lending to the smaller businesses, and this will help mainly to improve the viability and scale of their borrowers. So if you're talking about details, it mainly says that the country's banking system was very strong now. Okay, now country's banking system, it is very strong, and with bad loans at the 5-year low. So now there is a bad loans which is very much decreased, okay, very much low, so that we can say our banking system became very much strong now. Why? Because of whatever the reforms that we took from last 6 to 7 years. So you have to do some research regarding what are the reforms that we came up in this banking sector. Okay, so this is your homework, and this mainly comes under your static syllabus. And more than rupees 5 lakh crore has been recovered from lakhs of crores extended as loans before 2014. And before 2014, whatever the loans which are given by banks, so they became bad loans. From that, they collected about rupees 5 lakh crore. So in this way, our banking system became strong now. So the transparent and as well as committed manner in which the government has worked is also reflected in the money received by the banks. Okay, so here, because of these reforms which came up by government, that led to transparent as well as committed manner in which the government has worked is also reflected. And here our Prime Minister also said that who are mainly absconding a loan or loan defaulters, means if they are taking loan from so and so bank in India and they are leaving country. For example, if you are talking about Vijay Mallya, and you can also add a note on Nirav Modi, diamond merchant. So here in these areas also country which is mainly fighting to get back them to India. And our country is also coming up with number of policies, number of legislations, as well as we are having good relationship with the diplomatic channels such that okay, they will come back to our country. So if you're talking about some important note or background regarding this topic, so why our Prime Minister addressed like this regarding the role of banks? So this thing now we are going to discuss, it is not present in today's Hindus. Hi, but I got it from Hindustan Times newspaper. Okay, Hindustan Times. Please don't search unnecessary things in Hindu. You can't get this. Okay, so I took from Hindustan Times. So if you're talking about why it is in news, because our Prime Minister addressing chief executives of the country's public and private sector banks. Okay, so our Prime Minister mainly addressing chief executives of country's public and private sector banks at a conference. So the name of that conference is Creating Energies for Seamless Credit Flow and Economic Growth. So in this context, our Prime Minister mainly asked banks to adopt a partnership model with the business rather than looking for loan approval and loan applicant status or applicant relationship between them. Okay, so this is about this topic. And in this context, he also pointed out that banks were flush with liquidity and there should be all-round effort to help corporates and as well as MSMEs. So in this context, our Prime Minister mainly said that these banks, they need to provide some liquidity, that means money, for corporates and as well as MSMEs in the form of loans. Okay, so these are some important things. And he also make a note that here these MSMEs, they are mainly job creators. So whenever they are getting loans, means they can invest and they can go for large scale of employment. So this will be helpful for addressing of one important challenge that we are facing in our economy. It is unemployment. Unemployment, it is one of the mainly one curse that we are facing, and many steps are taken from the government side and as well as RBI side, okay, mainly to come out of this problem, but nothing works. So here in this way, whenever we are mainly asking banks to provide more loans for these MSMEs, then this might be helpful to decrease this unemployment. There will be increasing of employment opportunities. So this is gist of this topic. And now let us move on to another topic, and this is also important from our economy, which mainly comes under GS paper 3. And if you're talking about title, it mainly says that WTO reign in nations violating trade rules. Okay, so this is a thing which mainly said by our minister, that is industry minister. So industry minister said that WTO, World Trade Organization, must reign in nations violating trade rules. Okay, so there are many nations which part of this WTO, they are mainly violating the trade rules. So regarding this ministerial summit, that is 12th ministerial summit, that need to focus. So now let us try to see context. So here now today I am not going to discuss about any basic GK, general knowledge regarding this WTO. It is your work to refer some facts regarding this WTO, because number of times I discussed about this topic. So if you see context, it mainly says that ahead of 12th, okay, it is 12th ministerial meet. Ahead of this 12th ministerial meet, that is to be going to be held in December month. Okay, ahead of the WTO ministerial meet that is going to be held in December, our commerce and industry minister, he mainly said that countries are not working transparently as per the global trading rules. As per the global trading rules which are mainly laid under this WTO, so many countries, they are not working transparently. So this is a thing which mainly said by our minister. And he indirectly said about China actually. So our minister, without naming China, and called for reboot of the way the world body goes about its business to deal with such situation. So whenever any country is not following as per this global trading rules, so what will be the thing that need to be taken into consideration, that is what action can be taken. So this is a thing which mainly asked by our commerce minister. So if you're talking about some more details, it mainly says that, so taking on the developed nations, okay, taking on the developed nations for seeking to treat countries with low per capita countries of a par with far rich nations. Okay, and also our minister mainly said that to introspect whether they are letting the least developed and as well as developing countries down to trade or sustainability, and also regarding the climate change goals. So if you are talking about these developed countries or developed nations, whether they are following the rules or not which are laid by this WTO, and also they here WTO need to introspect also whether these developed nations, they are letting least developed and as well as developing countries regarding trade, sustainability and as well as climate change goals or not. And in this context, our minister also said that world today has to reassess whether countries across the world, they are truly and as well as genuinely following this multilateral rules in the terms of transparency or not, in the terms of fair play, in the terms of honest business practices. So in this way, we need to see whether all these countries members of this WTO, they are mainly, okay, they are mainly following these rules which are mainly framed by this WTO or not. And this one is the minister also noted, and as well as he stressed that WTO should also review its efforts. So now let us try to see some important key note points. Our minister is responding to query from New Zealand High Commissioner. So New Zealand High Commissioner said that India need to join this RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. Okay, so in this context, our minister said that we are mainly looking for transparent, honest trading system in India. And whenever we are entering into an agreement with certain geographies, and those geographies did not share information and did not give market access to everybody equitably and as well as openly. So here indirectly said that RCEP, it is not providing a certain information as well as it is not providing a market where all the countries are seen equally and as well as openly. So in this context, our minister said that our pharmaceutical industries or our pharma industries, they have been trying from 4 years, since 4 years, but not getting any market access in this RCEP. And apart from that, India, if you are talking about India, India has open automatic approval, that is 100% of automatic approval, and it is also inviting anybody to come in India and to invest and to buy any of our companies. So these are the some important things that India came up with. Okay, so while reforming this WTO, it was very critical, especially to check such countries, they are flagrant violation of trade rules. Okay, so we need to also see about which are the countries which are mainly altering or which are mainly violating the trade rules of this WTO. So now let us try to understand what is this RCEP. RCEP is nothing but Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. So which are the members? You need to tell me in comment box. So why India came up out of this RCEP? From RCEP recently India came out. So because of some important reasons. So first let us try to see those reasons. So first one is there is unfavorable balance of trade. That means trade has increased in the post-free trade agreement with South Korea, Asian countries, Japan, etc. And next one is imports have risen faster than exports from India. So from India we are mainly importing more rather than exporting. And this one is if you are talking about China. So India signed FTA, free trade agreement, with all the countries of this RCEP except this China, right? And in this way, trade data which mainly suggests that India's deficit with China, with which does not have a trade pact. Okay, so with China we do not have a trade pact, but there is a trade surplus with China regarding this India-China trade. And this one is there is non-acceptance of auto trigger mechanism. That means whenever we are getting imports from other countries, so these imports, if it is increasing threshold, if it is increasing the threshold, means what happen, the country which is importing that can impose tariffs. Okay, so it is not accepted. Okay, however other countries of this RCEP were against this proposal. And this one is protection of domestic industry. So India had also reportedly expressed that apprehensions on lowering and as well as eliminating tariffs on several products like dairy, steel, etc. And it is not including services, because India is good in services but it is not including services. And as far as there is lack of consensus on rule of origin, that means where this so and so product originated. For example, in China, what happened, mainly to decrease any tariffs here, China which is mainly sending those goods to, for example, so and so country, and from that country they are coming to India. So this is the thing which is mainly happening here. Okay, so because of this, India has concerned mainly about this possible circumventions of rules of origin. Okay, so this is gist of this topic, and I hope it is very much clear. And now let us try to see next topic. Title says sexual intent, not skin to skin contact. Key, says Supreme Court. So this is one of the key judgment I can see regarding this POCSO Act. So it is regarding section 7. You have to remember this. Section 7 of this POCSO Act, which is mainly interpreted in this judgment of Supreme Court. So what is the background? Earlier Bombay High Court said that, so whenever it mainly comes to this sexual content under this sexual intent under this section 7 of this POCSO Act, it should contains skin to skin contact. Okay, so now let us try to see this topic, and this topic is very important from your polity, and students who are going to write this year means you will be getting question for sure 100% from this topic in your GS paper too. So if you are talking about context, it mainly says that Supreme Court quashed Bombay High Court decision to acquit a man charged with assault under this POCSO, that is Prevention of Children from Sexual Offence Act, solely on the grounds that he groped child over her clothes without skin to skin contact. So here what happened, Bombay High Court gave judgment like, so in this so and so case, so there is no skin to skin contact, so it will not comes under section 7 of this POCSO Act. But here Supreme Court quashed this judgment which is given by this Bombay High Court. So now let's try to see important details. So if you see details, it mainly says that the act of touching a sexual part of the body with sexual intent will not be trivialized, and it is not excluded under this section 7. So even though if you are having a sexual intent to touch a child, for example private parts of a child, so if you touch those private parts on the clothes, that means if there is no skin to skin contact, or if there is skin to skin contact, that will comes under this section 7. They are not excluded. So this is a thing which mainly said by Supreme Court. And this section 7 of this POCSO Act, which mandates that whoever with sexual intent touches the vagina, penis, anus or breast of a child or makes the child to touch vagina, penis, anus or breast of such person or any other person, okay, so they will comes under this sexual assault. And the court said that limiting the ambit of touch to a narrow and pedantic definition would lead to an absurd interpretation. So we need a proper interpretation. So whenever there is anything like, if there is anything like no skin to skin contact, means it will be like a absurd interpretation, right? So the bench noted that most important ingredient of this section 7, it is sexual intent, but not skin to skin contact. Okay, so if you're talking about some key background regarding this case, recently Supreme Court had to inject interpretation regarding the skin to skin contact, which mainly given by this Bombay High Court. So already we discussed about this Bombay High Court in our earlier judgments like 3 to 4 months back. So if you're talking about this section or this judgment of this Bombay High Court, it mainly says that it is a fundamental defect. Okay, it is a fundamental defect of this POCSO and is its inability to deal with this historical cases. It is also inability to deal with these historical cases regarding some sexual exploitation, pornography of children. And over the last 9 years, India has sought to protect children from offense of sexual act, sexual harassment and as well as pornography, especially through this prevention of children from this sexual offense act. Okay, that is POCSO. And if you're talking about this POCSO, it has not been without controversy or deficiency. So now we are seeing one deficiency in this section 7 of this act. And if you're talking about protection of children, especially in our constitution, which articles mainly talks about this protection of children? That is article 21 of our Indian constitution, right? And as well as India is also signatory for this United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. Okay, so this is about this background. And now let us try to see some basic facts regarding this POCSO. So as you all know that this POCSO, it was enacted especially to protect children from offences of sexual assault, sexual harassment, pornography, etc. Okay, and this act mainly amended in year 2019, and it is mainly amended to provide more stringent punishment, including death penalty for sexual crimes against children. And if you're talking about this act, it mainly defines as a child who is below 18 years of age. Child means who is below 18 years of age according to this POCSO act. Okay, and with regards to the best interest and the welfare of child as a matter of paramount importance. So this act which is mainly giving paramount importance for safety and as well as welfare of children, and is mainly focusing to ensure healthy physical, healthy emotional, healthy intellectual and as well as social development of the child. Okay, so this is about definition of a child. And if you're talking about some more interesting things regarding this POCSO act, so it also deems as a sexual assault that to be aggravated under certain circumstances. Okay, for example, if any sexual assault which is mainly done by most important person, that is most trusted authorities, for example family members, for example police officer, teacher, doctor, so they will be having aggravated punishment. And this one is, it also cast police is in the role of child protectors during this investigation process. So during this investigation process regarding these cases, here police will play an important role. And this act also stipulates that the case of child sexual abuse must be disposed within 1 year. The time limit here is 1 year. So these are some important things that you need to remember, and I hope it is at most clear. And now let us move on to next topic. Title says India needs $10 trillion to meet net zero. So what is this carbon neutrality or net zero? That is how much amount of carbon dioxide it is emitted is equal to how amount of carbon dioxide absorbed. It is called as carbon neutrality or net zero. It is nothing like emitting of zero carbon emissions. So how much amount of carbon we are emitting? So the same amount of the carbon that we need to absorb. But how? By increasing of planting of trees, that is afforestation. Okay, and we can use some technology that mainly sucks this carbon dioxide. And we can also increase carbon sinks. Okay, so these are some important things, and as well as we can go for decreasing of using of fossil fuels. So now let us try to see this topic, what it is saying about regarding this climate finance. So already we said about what is the meaning of climate finance in our earlier lectures. So let me know what is the meaning of this climate finance. Okay, in comment box, don't forget about this. And now let us try to see context. If you see context, it mainly says that to meet its goal of net zero, or being able to effectively eliminate carbon dioxide emissions by 2070. So in this COP26, that is Conference of Parties 26 that held recently, so our Prime Minister announced that we are going to achieve this carbon neutrality by 2070. Okay, so to achieve this goal of this carbon neutrality by 2070, we need a close of climate finance. It is about $10 trillion, that is approximately 700 lakh crores. So this is according to analysis which mainly done by Climate and Energy Research Firm. Okay, Climate and Energy Research Center for Energy Finance. Okay, so this is the organization which mainly said about this thing. And if you're talking about details, it mainly says that, so this organization, it is a Council for Energy, Environment and Water Research, and it is a think tank. And it mainly said that most of the money, that is around 8.4 trillion, that could be needed especially for generation, okay, from renewable energy resources. For example, if you're talking about solar, if you're talking about wind and geothermal, tidal, etc. So we need money. So especially about 8.4 trillions out of this 10 trillions that mainly used or that is needed for the generation of this renewable energy capacity or renewable energy technology, etc. And there is a need of another $1.5 trillion. There is a need of another 1.5 trillion that would have to be invested especially in industrial sector, and that can be used for setting up of green hydrogen production. Okay, and if you're talking about some more important data which is given in this article, so this data you have to write in your data book. So this will be very important to write answer regarding environment and ecology, especially for students who are mainly applying for this Indian Forest Services. So for those people, you can get questions from this type of topics in your means. So data is very important, and you need to code the data, and this data will be useful for even in your essay. So the study mainly estimates that India would fall short of $3.5 trillion to achieve its net zero target, and hence investment support of $1.4 trillion that would be required from developed economies to bridge the gap. So to bridge the gap, already we are facing some backlog or short of 3.5 trillion, and that we need to get from these developed countries. Okay, next one is India's total installed solar power capacity that would need to increase to 5,630 gigawatts. Okay, to achieve this target of this 2070 net zero, so India need to achieve the capacity of the solar power of 5,630 gigawatts. And this one is we need to go for use of coal, and especially for power generation that will helps to peak by 2040, and there will be drop by 99% between 2040 and 2060. And this one is crude oil consumption. So crude oil consumption across sectors that would need to peak by 2050, and that need to be fall substantially by 90%. Okay, so we need to also focus on how to decrease this fossil fuels. So whenever we are decreasing fossil fuels, automatically what happens, so the amount of carbon emissions that we are releasing into atmosphere, that will be decreased, right? So we can also go for a blending of petrol with ethanol. So what is the use of this blending of petrol with ethanol? Means first one here is we can decrease our import of crude oil, and next one is we can save the forest reserves. And from environment point of view, so whenever we are blending petrol with ethanol, so this ethanol will be helpful for complete combustion. So because of this complete combustion, that will help in mainly decreasing the emission of this PM, particulate matter 2.5, particulate matter 10 into atmosphere. And we can also focus on our green hydrogen, that is hydrogen, which is mainly produced by electrolysis of water. Okay, so green hydrogen could mainly contributes 19% of our total economy, which mainly need by our industrial sector. So this is gist of this topic. Now let us move on to next topic. It is about mobile connectivity project to benefit tribes. Okay, so as I said in introduction, this topic will be important from your anthro, especially from your paper 2, and also from your society and social issues point of view. Okay, and it is also important from your sociology optional as well. So now let's try to see this topic in a very great detail. So if you're talking about context, okay, if you see about context, it mainly says that more than half of the over 7,200 uncovered villages, okay, about more than 7,200 uncovered villages. So these villages, they are inhabited by these tribal communities. So in these villages, our government, which mainly aims to provide 4G connectivity, and target here is 2023. So by 2023, government which is mainly decided to go with developing or providing some 4G connectivity in this 7,200 uncovered areas. So what is estimated cost? It is about 6,469 crore rupees. And if you're talking about details, it mainly says that our union cabinet approved for providing mobile services in the 7,287 uncovered villages. They are mainly located in 44 aspiration districts, and these are mainly located in some underdeveloped districts in India, which are mainly present in 5 states. Those include AP, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Maharashtra and Odisha. And if you see these areas like Chhattisgarh, AP, Jharkhand and Odisha, they will come under red corridor. That means they are also affected with this left-wing extremism. And this one is, while exact tribal population that would benefit from this decision, which is not available till now. And officials mainly said that it is going to benefit around 36 lakh people across these underdeveloped villages. And next one is, as per the Department of Telecom, okay, as per the Department of Telecom, which mainly estimates that 5,72,551 of 5,97,618 inhabited census villages of this country, they are including tribal areas and as well as left-wing areas, they will be helpful. Okay, so this decision will be very much helpful for tribal people. So this is about this topic, and now let us try to see next topic. Title says Russia test hypersonic cruise missile. So here you need to focus on what is this hypersonic cruise missile. So this will be very important from your science and technology. If you are talking about missiles, we are having 2 types of missiles. First one is ballistic missile, second one is cruise missile. So ballistic missile means if this missile which is fired here means it will be moving in a parabolic path and it will hit the target which is present here. If you are talking about cruise missile, okay, so it will be moving up in certain height and it will be following a straight path and it will hit the target. So this is the difference between this ballistic missile and as well as cruise missile. So now let us try to see what is this hypersonic cruise missile. So the name of this Russia's hypersonic cruise missile, so that will be very important. And the name here is Zircon, Z-I-R-C-O-N. Zircon, it is Russia's hypersonic cruise missile. So recently China also tested its hypersonic glide vehicle. Okay, so there is a difference between this supersonic missile and as well as hypersonic missile and as well as hypersonic glide vehicle. So hypersonic glide vehicle recently tested by China, and hypersonic cruise missile which is mainly tested by Russia, name here is Zircon. So there is a lot of difference, so please don't confuse here. So if you're talking about context, it mainly says that Russia said it had carried out another successful test of its Zircon, that is hypersonic cruise missile, on the latest additions to the country's arsenal of weapons called Invincible by President Vladimir Putin. Okay, so Russia said that they carried out this one successful test for this hypersonic cruise missile, name here is Zircon. So if you're talking about details, it mainly says that Moscow has in recent years which mainly touted the development of weapons that it hopes will give it the edge in any arms race with the US. So it mainly says that Russia in the recent years it is mainly going for development of its missile system such that it will be helpful mainly to fight against US. Okay, and hypersonics, they can travel more than 5 times, okay, 5 into speed of sound. Okay, so it will be traveling 5 times speed when we are comparing with that of speed of sound. So it is also called as 5 Mach speed. And this one is military also said that it fired this Zircon missile from a warship and hit the target. Okay, target which is located in this Arctic waters. And this was mainly conducted in the waters of White Sea. So you have to see the location of White Sea. Here we have Russia, right? So here we have Barents Sea, and here we have Mizon Bay, and here we have this Morzos Island, and here this part it is White Sea. So in this White Sea we are having different bays. Okay, so that is Kandalaksha Gulf here, and we have this Onga Bay, and this is Divna Bay. So here in this way you have to see the locations of some important lakes, water bodies nearby this White Sea. Here we have this Lake Onega, and here we have this Lake Rosero. Okay, so this is about some map related thing regarding this White Sea. And now let us try to talk about some facts regarding this hypersonic missile. So if we are talking about hypersonic means it will be have speed which is 5 times more than compared to that of speed of sound. Okay, 5 times more compared to that of speed of sound. So Mach it is nothing but here into speed of sound, it is, I can say it is 5 Mach speed. Okay, so if you are talking about speed of sound, it is equal to 343 meters per second. So if you are talking about this hypersonic missiles, we have mainly 2 types in this. First one is hypersonic cruise missiles. Second one is hypersonic glide vehicles. So recently here China tested this glide vehicle. So what is the difference between cruise missile and as well as glide vehicle? So here to launch this hypersonic missiles we need to use rocket or any jet propellant. Okay, but in this hypersonic glide vehicles, these missiles they first go up into atmosphere on conventional rocket before they are being launched towards their target. Okay, so this is some important thing that you need to remember. And now let us try to see what is a scramjet. Here this scramjet, so this is scramjet. Actually scramjet it is nothing but a new version of this ramjet. Okay, ramjet it is a old thing, and now we are using mainly scramjet, especially in this hypersonic cruise missile system. It is mainly having 3 chambers. Okay, so 3 important parts that you need to know here. So first one here is a converting inlet. So this is inlet, and they will be having a combustor, and they will be having an outlet. Okay, or we can say that diverging nozzle. So if you are talking about this scramjet engine, it is an improvement of a ramjet engine, and this scramjet mainly used in this hypersonic missile systems. Okay, and this scramjet mainly composed of these 3 basic components. First one is converging inlet. So in this converging inlet, the incoming air will be compressed, and this air can be used for mainly burning of the fuel, and it will be getting or producing heat. And this heat from this diverging nozzle, the heated air it is accelerated and to produce the thrust which mainly uses. Okay, so this is about this scramjet. And now let us try to see next topic. It is regarding missing and inclusionary vision for the urban poor. So this article mainly talking about this resettlement policy of Tamil Nadu. So this is important from your governance point of view, which mainly comes under your GS paper 2. So now let us try to talk about this topic in a very great detail. So if we are talking about what is this resettlement policy, so why this policy which is came up by this Tamil Nadu. So if you are talking about Chennai city, so in this Chennai city there were involuntary resettlement of slum dwellers have been practices for at least 2 decades. So for this last 2 centuries, from last 200 years, there is a resettlement of this slum dwellers that is seen in this Chennai. Okay, so from last 2 decades onwards, that is from last 20 years onwards, there are about 55,000 families. They forcibly moved to large state state built ghettos outside the city. Okay, so last from 20 years onwards, there are about 55,000 people they were relocated. So in the absence of any policy, and what happened if there is no law, if there is no policy from the government side, whenever there is any specific project is coming, or whenever any specific funding agency is coming, and then whenever they are giving funds and there is a relocation which is happening, means, so what happened, that will lead to some misuse as well. So because of this, government came up with a policy regarding this resettlement. Okay, in October 2021, Tamil Nadu government released its first ever draft, that is resettlement and rehabilitation policy, for this public comment. And if you're talking about details of this policy, it mainly says that it is mainly appeared to focus more on community engagement. Okay, it is mainly focused on community engagement from initial stages of this resettlement process, and even it is mainly focusing on ensuring that the areas where the communities are to be resettled fulfill their basic amenities from holistic perspective, and even it included the employment, healthcare, and as well as education. So first and the foremost important point that you need to remember here is, so in this law, or in this law, it mainly says that, so it is mainly focusing on resettlement process. Not only resettlement, it is also ensuring that areas of these communities, they are to be resettled fulfilled, and they will need to have some basic amenities, for example water facilities, sanitation, etc. And also it includes employment opportunities, healthcare, and as well as education. So this is about the first important point. And next one is, this draft said that policy will be applicable for involuntary resettlement. That means if voluntarily I want to move from this place to another place, I will be not included, but it will include involuntary resettlements. Okay, because of encroaching of areas. And next one is, the policy mandated the formation of resettlement committees for each resettlement scheme. For example, it will include representation from women, representation from scheduled castes and as well as scheduled tribes, etc., from affected areas and voluntary organizations, etc. And it also mandated the constitution that at the state level and at the district level, habitat development committees, they need to focus. Okay, so here the state level and as well as at district level, so these committees, they need to focus on facilitating interdepartmental coordination, and they need to focus on creating some basic amenities to ensure sustainable livelihood, and it will also focus on ensuring the delivery of welfare schemes, and as well as to address the grievances. So this is the thing which also included under this. And apart from this, so this draft policy said that, so resettlement location must be decided in such a way that traveling time by bus or train should not be more than 30 minutes to reach nearest urban area. So to reach nearest urban area, so whenever if they are going by bus, okay, they need to reach this nearby city within 30 minutes. So because if there is any health emergency is seen, means people, they need to move to hospitals, for example multi-specialty hospitals. So they need to have a proper contact, or that region should be in a near proximity for this urban areas. And this one is land affected by industrial pollution and as well as environmental degradation, and lands that mainly fell under buffer zones of ecologically sensitive zones, they must be avoided as settlement location. Okay, so industrial pollution areas and as well as environment degradation and lands which are mainly acting as a buffer zones, so ecological sensitive areas, they should not be given, or they should not be taken into consideration regarding this rehabilitation or resettlement locations. And we need to go for identification of vulnerable families with elders, with people with disabilities, women who are receiving the social security pensions, and they need to go for identification of education needs of children. Okay, so these all need to be taken into consideration. So this is gist of this topic, and I hope it is at most clear. And now let us try to say next topic. So before saying this topic, I want to make a small announcement on this platform. So we came up with this prelims test series and as well as mains answer writing practice. So along with that, we also launched a new foundation course for your prelims and as well as mains. So this entire foundation course, it is with a very affordable price, that is just 60,000. So in this 60,000 you are going to get more than 700 hours of video lectures, and it also includes prelims test series and mains answer writing practice if you join this entire foundational course. And also it will include different things, like we are going to discuss previous year's prelims questions, mains questions, and 100% concept clarity is assured here, and there will be one-to-one mentorship as well. So if you want to join separately this prelims test series, it also there. So there is 30 test that is going to start from 21st November 2021, and it includes revision test, sectional test, and as well as full length test, and even CSAT. Okay, and this is a very useful thing. And this one is mains answer writing course. So in this mains answer writing course, now we are mainly focusing on your static syllabus, that is GS1, GS2, GS3, and as well as GS4. And you will be going to practice 27 essays and 26 case studies, and this course it is also for 1 year. So we will be giving you micro listing of topics, and we will be giving a detailed schedule, like so in which week which topics that you need to cover. And after reading that, you are going to write daily one question, okay, and there will be model answer will be provided, and there will be evaluation and one-to-one mentorship. So after completing this entire GS1, we will be starting with art and culture, later on modern history, post-independent history, world history, social issues, and next one is geography, Indian geography, world geography. So after completing all these topics from the GS1, we are moving to GS2. After completing all these topics in GS2, we are moving towards GS3. And after completing all these GS3, we are moving towards GS4. So you will be getting confidence that yes, I completed GS1. Yes, I completed GS2. I completed GS3, GS4, like that. And you will be also practicing different case studies. Case studies is very important to get more marks in your GS4, that is ethics. Okay, and within this 1 year, you are going to read every nook and corner of your syllabus. So in this way, it is a very beneficial course, and I will assure you 100% that you are going to cover each and every part of your syllabus, and you are going to write about I think more than 330 questions, mains questions, and next one is about 27 essays and 26 case studies. So this is a highly beneficial, and this is a highly recommended course. So please trust on me and try to join this course, and you can enjoy the process, and as well as you will be completing all your syllabus, and you will be improving your confidence. Your confidence level will boost up after joining this course. So this is 100%. Okay, and the details of these courses are given in description box, and if you want to take individual courses like only geography, only ethics, only economy, only polity, like that, you can also take like that. So there is no problem, and the details of this courses are given in description box. So please visit our website rathodiesacademy.com. So now let us try to see next topic. Title says agreeing to disagree. So this is about US-China summit that held recently. Okay, so now let us try to see this topic. This will be important from our GS paper 2 under international relations. So if you are talking about what is the context, why it is in news, already you might knowing that recently President of US and as well as Chinese President, that is Xi Jinping, they met for the first virtual bilateral meeting. Okay, and the meeting mainly ended with a clear divergences in the positions which mainly taken by the two sides. So this is context. And if you are talking about what are the US reservations against China, so first one is human rights violation. US mainly raised one concern regarding human rights violation, that is mainly seen in Xinjiang province. So already we studied that in Xinjiang province they were Uyghur Muslims. And next one is in Tibet and as well as in Hong Kong, China mainly leading to human rights violation. So this is the first issue mainly raised. And next one is trade war between US and China. So US trade deficit with China was around US dollars 35 billion for 2007. So I am saying it is 2017 data. Okay, it is 2017 data. So according to 2017, here between US and China, trade deficit, okay, that is China which is mainly enjoying trade surplus, but US it is mainly having trade deficit, right? So due to this, US former President Donald Trump imposed import duties on Chinese exports. Okay, that led to trade war. And also third important issue which mainly raised here is free and open Indo-Pacific region. So if we're talking about free and open Indo-Pacific region, Chinese assertiveness in South China Sea, which mainly claiming the majority of sea as its territory, and it has prompted the US to reiterate the importance of freedom of navigation and as well as safe overflight to the region's prosperity. So if we're talking about third important region as well reason here, already we know that Chinese aggressive expansionist policy that is mainly affecting almost all the countries, especially countries which are sharing land boundary and as well as countries which are sharing maritime boundary. So in this Indo-Pacific region and as well as in South China Sea region, it mainly came up with this line -9, which is mainly started claiming entire South China Sea. And even with India, we are facing problem at our borders, right? For example, at western sector, at central sector, and at eastern sector as well. And if you're talking about next issue which mainly raised by USA, it is regarding Taiwan. So China and Taiwan, they separated amid civil war that held in 1949, and China considered now it is a territory of China. It is a territory of China. That is Taiwan. It is a territory of China. And if you're talking about Chinese, okay, China's reservation against US, they mainly says that US helping India to address disputes with India. Okay, so US mainly aims to support India via militarily, by a defense, and as well as by diplomatically and as well as intelligence channels. So this is one of important cause of concern for China. And this one is US also supports India's reservations against Belt and Road Initiative. As you all know here, Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, that is here, which is mainly moving to this Xinjiang, it is mainly connecting the Xinjiang region with this Gwadar port in Pakistan. Okay, so it is mainly connecting this Xinjiang region with this Gwadar port in Pakistan. Okay, so it is mainly passing through this Pak occupied Kashmir. So India says that this Pak occupied Kashmir, which is an integral part of India. So whenever there is any dispute territory which is present between these two countries, so another country should not interfere and should not come up with any developmental projects. So this is the thing which mainly said by India, and for this India mainly supported by US. US mainly supports India's reservation against this BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, that is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which mainly passes through this Pak occupied Kashmir. Okay, and next one is if you're talking about how we can balance China. So US is in the favor of strong India, especially in cooperation with like-minded countries. Okay, so due to this, India and as well as US, they mainly signed 4 fundamental defense agreements. So regarding this defense agreement, China is mainly having some concerns. So those includes the first one is General Security of Military Information Agreement, that is GSMOA. GSMOA signed in 2002. And this one is LEMOA, that is Logistic Exchange and Memorandum of Agreement, that is LEMOA, signed in year 2016. Apart from this LEMOA, we also signed this COMCOSA recently in 2018. So COMCOSA, which is mainly related to the communication compatibility and security agreement. And this one is we also signed with BECA, that is Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement in 2020. Okay, so this is just of this topic, and now let us say some other topics which are important in our news. So already it is a very lengthy, and students, they might have get bored. So if I discuss all the topics, it will take 1.5 hours to 2 hours for sure. Okay, so next some important topics that you need to refer here is India, China agree to restart talks between border commanders. So already we discussed about this topic and number of times we discussed this. Already you know that since May 2020 onwards, at the borders, China and Indian military stand-up that is seen, especially at this LAC region. So till now there is no complete disengagement that is seen. So regarding this article is present in news. So if at all it is important, means editorials you will be getting news. Okay, so we are going to discuss that. And this one is the heavy lifting on climate action must begin. So it is regarding this COP26. So we discussed this COP26 very detailedly. So I am not going to discuss this again. So if you want to read again, you can read this. Okay. So these are some important topics that appeared in today's newspaper. So I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please don't forget to subscribe for this courses in our Rathod's IAS Academy. And please don't forget to subscribe to Rathod's IAS and like, share and comment my videos. Thank you so much.